All right, Kaylee Hartung, who is over at ABC, she's doing her Good Morning America hits actually this morning from LSU football. She's been in Baton Rouge the past couple of days. I was watching World News Tonight with on ABC and saw her report with college football. She has been down in Baton Rouge and now is stopping here back on Off the Bench. It's always great to catch up with you. Welcome home. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm glad to be back in Baton Rouge. I don't like the news that I'm having to report, but I feel lucky that I get to do it from here and that I get to be at the home of the defending national champions and look forward to a conference who's saying that they will play football this season, that they're determined to play football this season.
It feels like they may be the defending and reigning national champs for a couple of years if they don't get on the field and play football. What have you learned since being around LSU football over the last 24 hours in the fall? How likely is it, in your opinion, after spending time with the champs?
They'll sure tell you that it's likely. I mean, Coach O was walking up and down the halls of the football ops yesterday saying, "Hold that tiger." And, the first thing he said to me when I saw him yesterday was, "We're going to play football." And I know you guys have heard him say that too. And I, if I'm being totally honest, like, I kind of got thrown into this story in a way that is unique for me because I'm not covering college football on a daily basis anymore.
Yeah. Right.
So as soon as you started hearing the rumors and the gossip swirling, I knew it was a story I needed to be a part of because of the base of knowledge I was coming from. And what was coincidental for me really is that my trip to Baton Rouge this week was planned about 10 days ago. I actually called up your good friend, Derek Panamsky, 10 days ago and said, hey, I really want to talk to you about what LSU is doing to protect its players and to protect the season. I know you guys have got to be doing some cool stuff. Let's talk about it and let's educate people on the lengths universities with resources are going to protect their players. And he was like, well, I think this is a great idea. Let me tell you about it. And I started learning about the technology they're experimenting with and the innovation and how they're testing above and beyond what the NCAA is asking schools to test. And I was so impressed. And for me, it seemed like a really good opportunity to show off what my favorite school in the country is doing to protect the players. And then as we got closer to the day that I was scheduled to come down here, those rumors started swirling and I realized the story was changing and that I still had a really unique opportunity to be here to then front this story that really deserves the national attention it's getting right now. If I'm being honest, sometimes it's hard for me to advocate for a sports story to get told on World News Tonight. I'm telling you, I did not anticipate doing a piece on World News Tonight from Tiger Stadium, but check that one off my bucket list.
Yeah. Beautiful background, by the way.
That happened yesterday. It looked like I was in front of a green screen. It didn't even look real. I thought the stadium looked particularly good yesterday, or maybe I was just happy to be home.
That was good.
But I think what's interesting to see right now is how quickly this story's unraveled in the past couple of days. I'm sure you guys were hearing the same thing I was hearing on Sunday into Monday morning, which was D-Day for college football could be this week.
Yeah.
There was a moment there where I really thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe we could be talking about the entire college football season being shut down. But the thought initially was, if we're talking about Sunday night, Monday morning, it was, oh my gosh, the Big Ten's going to cancel. Pac-12 is going to follow suit. That's going to put immense pressure on the other three Power 5 conferences. And then by Wednesday, the whole season could be canceled. And that sounded horrific. And obviously that word got around. And then we saw what the players did. Like, my hat's off to them for mobilizing and coordinating in the way that they did. So many big names across the sport and from some of the most powerful universities in the country. You really saw those players coming together. I know you've heard about the Zoom call, and then we saw the tweets and the hashtag We Want to Play. And I was so happy to see the players' voices get the platform that they got. But even though they made their pleas in the Big Ten and Pac-12, university presidents made a different decision. And we all have to understand how and why they came to that point. But I think what's confusing now is if they're leaning on medical advice, saying we can't play, it's not safe, but yet you see three other conferences saying, oh no, but we're comfortable playing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the role I'm able to play right now with the platform that I have, which is different than talking to a sports audience at ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm in a unique position now to try to educate people on a wider level about the lengths that places like LSU and that all of the schools in the SEC in particular, what they're doing that is making them feel safe and that is making them have the confidence that they can play when others are saying they can't. And it's that we know that there are the haves and the have-nots in college football. We know that LSU is lucky to have the resources it has to do all the things that they're doing. But now we're really seeing what that translates to. And what it translates to, it seems, is player safety.
Talking to Kaylee Hartung here on Off the Bench, 104.5, 100.3, 94.7, as she gives you some fascinating insight and story that she is currently embroiled in. Kaylee, I wonder if you, in your research, if you've come across this at all, because you're right. There's a disconnect between the lead medical director of the ACC and what he's saying versus what the Pac-12 doctors are saying. To me, there's also a disconnect between this idea. Here's a tweet from an Ohio State player. How are you going to tell us that we can't play football and then send an email a few hours later about having a safe fall campus that holds 40,000 people? Are students returning to campus? Is that kind of the biggest risk in all of this? Like, if they can't play football, how are these schools justifying having 20, 30, 40,000 people on campus?
Right? I don't have an answer to that because it doesn't make any sense to me either, if I'm being totally honest. And I get the players' frustrations in that sense because what you hear from the folks at LSU, and I'm really looking forward to talking to Jack Marucci today and Katie O'Neill, the infectious disease specialist that LSU has on staff and who's leading the SEC's task force with this. But, what they'll tell you, and what I've heard from Coach O and others on the staff is that, they are not worried about the players contracting the virus when they're on the football field, or when they're in competition. It's everything they're doing outside of the sport. It's whether they're going out, socializing, being on campus and whatnot. We all know they can create a pseudo bubble for these players. It's everything they're doing outside of the football facility that's so much more concerning. And you heard players saying that. I mean, you heard players saying we're at more risk if we don't play. And obviously those risk factors can multiply very quickly depending on a player's personal situation in their life and their family and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. It's confusing. It's confusing and it's complicated and it doesn't all line up. But I don't understand how you can say, let's put tens of thousands of kids back on a college campus, but you athletes, you can't do what you want to do, what you love to do, what you work so hard to do, regardless. And
I asked this earlier, and I wonder if maybe you have any insight. I asked this to Andy, and maybe it's a better question for a lawyer, but like liability seems to be at the core of this, right? And I just have to wonder, because look, if there's not a season, players won't go home. They'll enter like an off-season training program, and they'll still be regulated, still be tested, they'll still be relatively well protected. But I guess my question is, if liability is the biggest issue, how much of a difference is there in that sense of them being on campus and not playing versus being on campus and playing? Because to me, that doesn't feel like a great difference on the surface.
Right. And I mean, I think it was just last week that I'm with you. And I think it was last week that the NCAA said they totally threw out the idea of players signing any sort of liability waivers, releasing the school from any responsibility. I mean, it's you need a team of experts here to dig through the legal ramifications, the medical concerns. I don't have a legal or a medical degree, but it just goes back to it doesn't all line up. And I recognize these university presidents are in really difficult positions here. I can't imagine this decision for the guys in the Big Ten or the Pac-12 was easy, because we know there are impacts that will be felt so much more widely than just the lives of these student athletes. Whether it's the university staff that are impacted, some universities are already talking about they're going to have to lay off people if these seasons are canceled, to the small businesses and even larger businesses in these college towns. I think this is where Baton Rouge is lucky, and that we have a more robust economy than some of these smaller towns. But I mean, Scott Frost at Nebraska, he put numbers to it. I mean, he was saying, let me find this note I took earlier here. Yeah, this is going to cost the University of Nebraska $80 to $120 million just to cancel football, and it'll cost the city of Lincoln, Nebraska, $300 million.
Yeah. We
So
talked to Dr. Lauren Scott, and economist from here locally, and he was talking about the impact that it could have on the community. Last one, we'll get you out of here, and this is Kaylee Hartung, Baton Rouge native, ABC News correspondent that has been originating her World News reports and Good Morning America reports from the lobby of LSU football. You mentioned some of the meetings that you have coming up today. What does the agenda look like for you in LSU football? With you mentioned talking to Dr. Marucci. Who else is on the schedule?
We're still working it out, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like I said, the plan for this trip was hatched before the college football world started collapsing on itself. So the plan's been re-engineered a bit, and we're trying to figure out what makes the most sense. But my next goal is to talk to some of the players. Mm-hmm. I want to hear the players tell me why they feel safe. Because that's what we're hearing, is that they trust what LSU is doing. They trust the staff to keep them safe, that these protocols are what they need and that they are enough. And I also want to talk to, these players about their reaction to what has happened. What do they think about the position these Big Ten and Pac-12 athletes are in? Because, I'm here. I'm not at Ohio State. I'm not at UCLA. So I might as well talk to these guys about just wrapping their mind around the new reality that these college athletes are facing. I mean, I thought Joe Burrow's tweet the other day put things in perspective for a lot of people about the importance of one season, how life-changing it can be for some of these guys. Now, obviously, we know he's at the far end of the spectrum of the difference one season can make. When we're talking millions of dollars and a legacy-changing season as he had it. But it doesn't change the fact that, these guys have worked, the men and women, student athletes in these conferences have worked all their lives to this point for what they hoped would be this season, whatever year of college they're in, and now that's been taken away from them. And it's an extraordinary time. These are extraordinary circumstances, but you can't help but feel for them, and I just hate that we're all in this position.
Kaylee Hartung, a great storyteller and a ABC News correspondent. She is in Baton Rouge right now covering the LSU football program for things other than football. And she's reporting here this morning on Off the Bench. Always appreciate it. Good to have you home.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much. Glad to be back on the football beat for a minute.
Absolutely. There she is.